Today's message from Reverend Christian Sorensen was recorded October 2nd, 2016, and it's titled Practicing Infinity to Infinity and Beyond, subtitled How to Get Out of Your Own Delusion. And today we've included some notable quotes on the website at joyouspodcast.com. And come visit us sometime at seasidecenter.org, the website, or you can join us in Encinitas, California, where we always have great music, a spirited message, and a joyful, loving, vibrant community that awaits you.
Feel the joy, feel the peace, and the comfort of home, 'cause all are welcome here. Yes, all are welcome here.
So let's see, this morning is Practicing Infinity. And when I reread that this week, I couldn't help but to think of one of the lines I love. I could have named this that writing, the whole thing, from Buzz Lightyear to infinity and beyond. You know, that was the first talk I ever gave, standing on this stage here in our first Sunday here and here on Lake Drive, and it sat in the entryway for a long time, that moment, the capture to infinity and beyond. And what else captures that kind of thought is about practicing infinity is a wonderful quote by William Blake, and that is, to see the world in a grain of sand, heaven in a wildflower, to hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. It's like, where does that come from? That kind of stuff. I mean, where does somebody come up with that kind of thinking other than infinity itself? Someone who has touched that hem, that has been to that place, that has experienced that, something that is just beyond that physical realm and dimension, and you come to recognize that there is so much more. That infinity is moving right into this very vortex of expression, and I get to decide what that looks like in my life. And I have sat, I can't even tell you how many times people have asked me this particular question. I can remember this one individual I was counseling with, and she said that her life was not working right now, that her relationship was over. She had a beautiful home at one time, which she doesn't have. The career, which was solid, is no longer working. And it's like she was afraid that she had used up her allotment of miracles. It's not an uncommon kind of question I'm asked. How much good can I have before it goes away? How much good can I have before the other shoe drops? And I say, miracles and well-being are the natural state of our expression here in this earth. And, it's not as if you got to beg God for grace. What you've got to do is beg yourself for that grace, or at least acknowledge or claim the grace that has already been given to you. It's nothing you got to go out there and get. What happens is you're the one who's got to shift your thinking and realize that the other shoe isn't going to drop, but the good that you've got going on right now, at least my practice is the good I've got going on, is just the seed of the greater good, and my job is to plant that in the fertile soil that responds to my consciousness. The greater yet to be is to come from the seed. It's not as if I'm looking for the other shoe to drop, or I've only been allotted so many miracles or only so much good, and then it's going to run out. God is infinite. That is the truth of our being, is that you are infinite, and it's up to you to practice that infinite expression as your very experience in life. Infinite. That's like everything. Hello. Yeah. Yeah, it was, this week was my mom's birthday, and she's no longer in this world, so I always take a few moments on that day, or more than a few moments actually, and I just sit, with her picture, and I connect with Mom. I just tune into my mom's energy and her life force and communicate, and when people lose someone they love, I will always say that, they're closer than a phone call now. You just have to learn how to communicate in a new way. And that means like sitting down and being present. And I connected with Mom. It was beautiful. I could feel her warmth. She's doing well. And then I also remember questions people ask me that, if I'm going to connect with my loved one, am I going to be interrupting them? I mean, if they're off doing life over here, and I call them over here, really, am I going to, how is that going to work out if they're there and I'm here? It's a serious question that gets contemplated. How can they be in both places? And what I've come to recognize is that we're trying to understand with our finite mind. You know, we're trying to understand with our linear, logical brain that doesn't concept infinity, that it is possible to be everywhere, and that as I connect here, it's not as if I am depleting or pulling away the connection or the consciousness of my loved one that's over there. You got that? Because we are infinite, and it would be really small for me to think this is all that there is that's going on. And so as I play in that dimension of connectedness, I often will think about people and connecting with the angels and the gurus and the divas and the demigods and all that. And that, I was not trained, the art of my spirituality was about connecting directly with Source and not connecting with an intermediary or somebody beyond. But as I begin to connect with Mom, I can't help but to think, you know what, there's got to be the great beings and avatars and that available kind of awareness that is out there. And it's very short-sighted of me to think that this is it. Though I can always have my direct connection with Source, and that is my spiritual practice. But you know what? I come to recognize that there are individuals that if they're lacking compassion in their life and they're reaching out, that some will reach out to the Blessed Mother Mary for compassion. Or they may want to connect with Kuan Yin because of more of an Eastern slant in their perspective. Or let's say a Hindu who's practicing wants to have a greater sense of good in their life, and they want to connect with Ganesh. You know, or let's say a Native American wants to have a little bit more wisdom and wants to practice some owl medicine, if you would. Or let's going on a trip and you call in your guardian angels to make sure you're divinely protected. What I come to recognize is, in a sense, that this kind of essence, this multidimensional expression, may be more real than our three-dimensional presence in this physical world. And with that said, what I have a sense is that what someone is doing is connecting with that vibration of compassion. What they're doing is connecting with that vibration, that realization of the wisdom, of that which the owl medicine represents, or the guardian angel, or Michael. There is only one mind, and if there is this that represents that, because they're caught in a dark night or caught in a place where they don't feel they can connect, there is something that represents the vibration of compassion and the vibration of love. And if we're practicing infinity, I've got to recognize that there is so much more than that is just here in my field of logical awareness. Kind of makes sense? Okay, I'm still working on that one. But what I know is there's so much that represents the different aspects of Spirit of God. And sometimes we get stuck. And I can't just go to that divine guidance or the compassion, though I work on that. Many may choose to have something that represents that, activate that vibration within themselves. I can remember one time, it was a long time ago, I used to go to Mammoth. I would leave late at night, or sometimes in the early a.m., if you would. And I can remember this one time, you know, because you get there and it's still dark, and then you get there and the lights start shining, and you have some breakfast, sun is out, and it's a beautiful day. But it was February, early February, and big storm was just pounding the Sierras. I'm just excited to hit my buddy, and we took off. You know, it was midnight, late at night. It was dark, and you were going up over, you know, Lancaster and Palmdale, and the snow is coming down in the high desert where it's thick. I want you to know there's something darker than midnight. It's called 1 a.m. In a snowstorm, and they're coming down out of the high desert a little bit into Mojave, and there's snow on the ground, and there is ice. My friend is driving, and he just bounces us right off the center divider as we're going in this early a.m. And luckily, there was nobody on the road, so as we spun, we ended up going in the right direction, so we kept going, you know, until he pulled over and said, "You can drive the rest of the way, Christian." Uh-oh, that's right. So I'm driving through the blackness, the thick clouds in the sky, no moon. It's dark. They don't have street lights out in the middle of the desert. It's amazing. But But, driving through Lone Pine, Big Pine, Independence, the snow is just coming down. And Bishop, it hardly ever snows in Bishop, and it is thick. And then you start up this mountain in the early a.m., and all you see is this white blanket of snow right on the hood of your car. You can't see beyond your windshield, and it's just dark and black on the outside. And just trying to go slowly up the pass, and it's taking forever, and it's dark, and it's quiet. Oh my goodness. And then you find like a little path where the snow plow, and eventually you catch up the snow plow and say, okay, there's a God, and I'm getting there. And you get to the off ramp of where Mammoth is, and you drive down, and it's closed. It's like it's snowed in, and there I'm sitting in this snow. And have you ever seen the snow in Mammoth in February? There are 20 feet snow walls, and it's coming down. And all of a sudden, I'm just getting filled with this fear. It's like paranoid. I'm going to die here. This is going to be the end of my life. I'm going to freeze to death in my van in the middle of February, and nobody's going to know until the snowplow runs over me. And, it's like all these fears are coming in my mind, and it just gets dark. 3 a.m., 4 a.m., pitch black. And it's like, and then all of a sudden, there's a little brightness in the sky, in the horizon, in the east, and it starts to get a little lighter, and all of a sudden you can see some of the clouds are clearing, and all of a sudden the sun starts to shine. You can see these pink fingers going across the white snow and the blue sky, and as the sun comes up, there's this sparkle that is just off the diamond glint of the snow, just sparkling all in. The sun is out, and it's a gorgeous day. They open up the road, and I get to go ski. It's great. But what a relief to realize that my paranoid fear of dying a cold, slow death in my van wasn't really a reality. Though it was mine until the sun came out. And it just reminds me that we get to decide whether we're going to feed this dark fear or we're going to tap into the infinite and practice the infinite and recognize that no matter how badly I mess up in my life, life still loves me. And that the sun is going to rise, and it is going to be day, and it's going to be okay if I can just get out of my delusion. And it is painful to live in the delusion of paranoid fear and darkness and a dark dream that is becoming my reality. That's a lot more painful than trying to get out of the delusion. You can stay in your delusion, which is painful, but it's a lot better to try to experience the pain to get out of it and say, I'm done with this one. I'm moving on. It's done unto me as you believe. I can use this free will, this freedom of choice to remain stuck in the dark dream, in the paranoid fear, or I can use it to get out. And I can learn. Maybe you should check the weather. Maybe call in if it's a storm, But you can learn from that kind of experience. And you get to decide, really what's going on here. Because of what I have learned from counseling, a lot, whether it's on the phone, in person, emails, texting, and now it's people will share their paranoid fear, their story, their documentation as to why their body's not working or their life's not working or their bank account is not working. And they will work really hard to convince me why their dark dream is the truth. And if they succeed, it doesn't do them any good. So as they share, I think it's important to create the space, catharsis, the cathartic expression, get it out. But I'll tell you what, I'm not really fully engaged in listening. I mean, I care, but what I'm really listening to, that's it. In, without, everywhere. I'm listening to that voice. I'm listening for that infinite. And when that Christ awareness or that Buddha consciousness, whatever kicks in, that's when the healing happens. That's what happens. I'm not listening to that fear and that worry, but rather I'm listening for that voice that is far greater than the details I'm being given in that moment. Because I'll tell you what, if somebody's sitting before me, it's not uncommon for them to be lying awake at 3 a.m. in the darkness of their fears and having graphic details while this is their reality. And they're going to die a cold, slow death. I don't want to hear that. What I want to hear is the light and the wisdom and the presence of God that is showing up in this moment to bring about the greater good. I want to have a conversation with Spirit that is infinite. The people get caught up in the conversation trying to explain, and the conversations go on a long time in this life and in this world. I heard the longest recorded conversations was between a Jehovah's Witness and an Amway salesperson. Not that I have anything against, I have a great deal of respect for religious devotees and multi-level aficionados for their faith and their commitment and their determination. But I also ask, why is it that so many people run from individuals that are selling God and soap? It's like there's something there, that I could take a look at. And what I come to recognize, it's that assertive putting it in your face. And it's what I've come to recognize is that people who are living their expression, their faith, their knowingness, their belief, just exude something about them that it doesn't come to a hard push and sale. There's a countenance. There's an aura about success or about the presence or about life that people say, hey, I want some of that. You don't have to push it. I learned at an early age, you don't buy hair growth tonic from a bald salesman. It's not how it's done. But rather from one who is exuding a faith and a presence and is absolutely committed to being that, because that presence shows up in all places. That means right where you are, the divine is. It is. And yet we have been taught that, or inflicted with fear even, that, it's not really like that. It's kind of, you've got to have this intermediary. We learned about hierarchy, from religion, some religions, if you would. We've learned that from, military, from the corporate world. Heck, we learned it in high school, out on the schoolyard. It was very clear there was a top dog, and they kept those scrubs or those freshmen or those sophomores in line because of their place. But hierarchy separates you from God. It separates you from life itself. It says it's here, and you're down here on the lower rung as a peon. Or what traditional religions will say, no better than the worm of the dust. It's not, I don't think it is the truth. I think the truth of who you are is spirit expressing, and that is everywhere. It was Emerson who made famous a quote of St. Augustine. He said, God's a circle whose center is everywhere and circumference is nowhere. It's time for you to practice infinity, to go to infinity and beyond. See, there's no end to infinity. So infinity and beyond, because I got to recognize right where I am is the center of the universe, or not the center of life, or God, or spirit. Just like, the rays of the sun it's not the sun, but all that it is of the sun. It has the warmth, it has the lights, it has the components of what the sun is. Like the waves in the ocean, it's not the whole ocean, but all that it is of the ocean. It's got the water, it's the life, the vitality. You are that wave, you are that ray, you are that light, and it's up to you to begin to accept that and not give your power away to some hierarchical expression that has dominion over your life. And we are taught oftentimes through abusive kind of ways, that God is angry and wrathful. Had a kid from the junior church said, that God really needs to go to a counseling session on anger management or something. Our spirit is love, caring, compassion, and it's up to me to know that in the darkness of a dark dream, in the midst of my paranoid fear that, the dawn is coming. But I'm not living in the future. I'm living right here in this moment, knowing the presence is now. Because too many people live in the future that I will make it to heaven. Heaven's not in the future. Try to keep you in line that say, or you'll go to hell. Heaven and hell are states of consciousness is what we say around here. And that you don't die and then become eternal. We don't say that a dead person lives again, but a living person never dies. That when you're living, you are experiencing the eternality of spirit. That it is now, and that, the threat of Hades is just the one who threatens hell lives in hell. Those that believe in death are dead now. It's now. is where you get to experience infinity. If infinity doesn't unfold in a sequential, linear kind of manner, it is all present. The center is now, the circumference is nowhere. And if I want to practice infinity, then what I get to do is download that expression of God in this moment and to be that and realize that Spirit is moving here, that Spirit is moving now, and part of it is my spiritual maturity into that and being able to rest in this knowingness in the midst of that which doesn't quite seem to be fruiting yet. It's like a tree. When the fruit is ready, it falls. But there's a time where it's green. And in our spiritual practices, when we're trying, when we're practicing, when we're implementing, when we're using principle, it's like, it's rigid. But at some point, you learn to rest. You rest in Spirit. You rest in the divine. And know that Spirit unfolds in ways that are ease and grace. And that it's not out there. But there's someone who went to a guru and said, you know what, teacher? I'll give you an orange if you can tell me where God is. And the guru said, and I will give you 2 oranges if you can tell me where God is not. That means at 3 a.m. as your eyes are awake, concerned about what the doctor said or the bank said or the bills are piling up or whatever your concern is, or global scale, the war, the terrorism, the contraction, whatever it is, it's up to me to know that I get to experience the presence in this moment. It's a God moment. A moment that Spirit has its way. They say like a guru is one who will sit on the side of the river and sell you water that took from the river. And a very poor or low-end guru is the one who's going to say, you know what? Come with me and I will give you water for the rest of your life, but you're dependent on me to keep giving you the water. But the high-end one says, come with me and I will show you where to fill up your own water from. See? Any of those religions or things that say, you've got to follow it this way, you run the other way. There's not just one way. But we're taught that, I got to pay, the big bucks for this healing. As much as I can, I got to pay here, whether it's coming from the medical world, whether it's coming from religion, whether it's coming from, some other kind of practitioner. And we learn that, it's been given to you already and that you can claim it at any moment. And somebody says this has to be the way. You know what? We're in Encinitas. Do you realize there's more spiritual centers around here than there are gas stations? There are a lot of options to find what matches your resonance in your field. But find ones that empower you, that allow you to recognize that you are that place where the infinite touches down. And that you're not trying to fix anything. I love from the Hindu scripture, the parable or the story of the guy who goes at night, walks into a room in his house. It's dark, and he walks in there, and he sees a snake coiled up, and he just fear, about dies of a heart attack on the spot. But as his eyes become acclimated, what he sees is a coil, a rope that he thought was a snake. Yeah. And so, instantly the color comes back to his face, his heart stops pounding, he wakes up. It's not like he was going to die. It was like all of a sudden, everything's fine. And what happened instantly? What happened is that he realized there was a coil of rope there. It's not as if he got rid of the snake. It's not as if he healed the snake back to a coil of rope. What he realized is a coil of rope the whole time. And what happens in our life, all of a sudden, we are consumed by this thought that this snake is what's real, and I've got to heal this disease. I got to heal what the doctor report says. I've got to heal what is going on in the world, and the global warming, and all these things. And I'm trying to get that snake to turn back into a coil of rope, when the truth is, it's a coil of rope. When the truth is, it is God that's going on in our life, and I see the snake, and I'm trying to heal a snake that doesn't exist. But that's what we end up doing when we're stuck in our finite senses. When we're caught in our 5 senses, we're trying to fix that which is finite, and we're stuck in the finite realm. We've got to practice infinity and bring the infinite into our realization and recognize the presence of God is right there in the midst of wherever it is I've been stuck, wherever I have been caught up in. and things shift. They do. They do. Is it a miracle? Well, I started off by saying this morning, it's the natural tendency. It's our natural nature. I haven't been allotted only so many miracles. It's how it works. I don't try to heal that. What I want to do here's the key. When somebody brings that story to me and they're working on convincing me that it's really a snake, that there really is recession, I listen. I told you, I listen. That's the first class in the foundation class. You've missed mine already. I already started, but Lori Max is starting, I think, tomorrow morning. The very first practice is coming to know what God feels like to you. Not the anthropomorphic, something we were taught from religion, from a hierarchical standpoint, but what is that vibration of my being? When I can come to know that when someone mentions the word God or life or spirit or infinite, all of a sudden there's that remembrance when I looked in my kid's eyes for the first time, wow, God. See, that's what we're going for. That kind of something is what works. It's a miracle. But like I said, you're not allotted so many miracles, so it's natural. The good. Albert Einstein, I love the quote that I'm sure we've all heard. He said, you can live your life, one, as if nothing is a miracle, or live your life as if everything is a miracle. I choose to live in that. And what I do when I'm caught in that dark dream or that paranoid fear, and I begin to believe that is the reality, and I want to begin to practice the infinite, what I do is adjust my attitude. I learned that from flying because, when your plane's getting bounced around, what it's called is adjusting the attitude. Pilots know what you do is you need to adjust the attitude of your plane, and then you climb to higher ground above the turbulence. What you do is you work on your attitude, and then you climb to a higher perspective, above the mountaintop perspective, to that place where you begin to see things, and you're not bound by, what others say you've got to do. I mean, I remember the story I was touched by. A soldier out on the battlefield, they had just come back to the trenches, and the soldier said to the officer, sir, request permission to go back out onto the battlefield. My friend has not returned. And the officer said, permission denied. I'm not sending you out there. Your friend is probably dead, and I'm not going to risk you getting killed. Well, the soldier didn't listen to him, and he went out there anyway. And an hour later, he comes back carrying the corpse of his friend, but mortally wounded himself. And he comes to the officer, and the officer is just, struck with grief and heartbreak. And he said, I told you not to go out there, that your friend was probably going to be dead, and now I'm going to lose both of you. Was it worth it? And he looked at him and said, but he wasn't dead when I got there. He looked up at me and said, Jack, I knew you would come for me. There's something inside of you that is greater than death, greater than sickness, greater than struggle. But all you need to do to activate that is to practice infinite. And something begins to stir. Something begins to move in you. Like if you're meditating, and all of a sudden your senses are heightened. Your body comes alive. Your cells start tingling. There's a movement that's going on inside of your physical awareness. There's this tingle. Things are heating up. You get these hot flashes. Your spine's catching on fire. You're alive. Or maybe you're cold, but it's exciting. It is stimulating. You've got this heightened sense of seeing. You begin to see and understand. And there's colors that begin to fill your field of awareness. The greens and the blues and the purples. And you get even more connected. And they go to golden and golden light and a white, and all of a sudden, as if you're standing in front of a freight train's headlamp. It is so bright to the point where you feel you're merging with the light, and you become one with that. And it's like you grow in this huge size. You fill the room and beyond, or you shrink and you become so small you're playing at the atomic level. You're like Alice in Wonderland. There's something that is going on. You're practicing infinity, but yet you're not sure what is going on. You feel this heaviness. You're like a boulder on the ground. You can't move your legs, or yet you're floating, like you got to open your eyes to see if you're still touching the ground. It's just amazing the things that can begin to happen. Your senses are so heightened that your smell becomes so alive that it's smelling through your heart and you don't even see or hear anymore. It's like you can smell what's in the ground and what was created and what walked there in the trees and the light of the life. Or maybe you begin to see in ways you haven't seen in other dimensions and past lives or sacred sites or these gurus or angels or mom or what have you. All of a sudden there's a movement that is going through you that is profound, that just bursts all the dimensions of compartmentalization, and you are just living in sync with the very life expression itself, and you get excited about this, or you get hit with this fear that this is too scary, I don't know what's going on here, this is horrible, or you get so excited you get addicted to it, and all of a sudden I want more and more and more, and I want you to get, that's not what you're going for. What you're going for is the spiritual experience. Those are the side effects. You're going for that connection with the infinite, and the infinite is truly seeking to express itself as your very life. And I could keep on going, but you know what? I'm going to leave you with that one. God bless you.
All Are Welcome Here, from the album Path of Light, was co-written by Peggy Lebo and Reverend Christian Sorensen. It's available at www.peggylebo.com.